Hello. Well, I want to talk about my Nikon Coolpix P900. Um, this is it's my go-to camera. It's the one that I normally pick up when I'm leaving the house. It's a good jobbing camera for kind of, you might call it jack of all trades, master of none, but it does all the jobs I generally want to do when I'm out and about. It's not my best camera or my favorite camera, but it's the one that I use like 3/4 of the time is going to be this camera. However, like I said, all around, I love it to bits. However, it has a really bad design flaw, and that's what I'm going to look at today. So I've just come foul of this. So if we can see here, if it will focus, this is the tripod mount, and you can see cracked. I've super glued this back in. You can see here there's all bits of missing plastic all around here. So it's just about glued onto the case. Now the problem with this is that if you can see where it's located on the camera, that's the center line of the lens. The center of gravity is going to be a little bit beyond that. The lens isn't central. You can see how far past the center of the camera the lens is. The center of gravity is going to be somewhere like here, and this is all the way over to the side. So when it's on the tripod, now if I grip it there and try and hold it, the problem really occurred when I was trying to photograph the moon and Mars. So I'm extended to maximum zoom and it's on the tripod. And I was also trying to take video. Now, if you tried to follow the moon or Mars on an extreme zoom, you'll understand how fast those objects move across the field of view. So you need a really nice tripod, sturdy tripod, nice smooth action. And the other thing as well about photographing the moon and Mars or any other object like that, astronomical object, is when you're photographing normal objects on the tripod, you're normally level, or you're only a couple of degrees off the horizontal. Whereas when you're photographing the sky, obviously you're going to be up and down all over the place, and moving it about, and like, so that kind of movement, I'm trying to hold it there, and just the strain in my fingers, the camera's trying to pitch forward and to the right, and that continuous strain has led to that cracking and pretty much coming out. Now, my other camera, my favorite camera, my Canon 5D Mark II, if we compare the two together, this tripod mount right in the center of the lens. Now, obviously, there's not all the weight on this lens, which is all the more surprising because this is a fixed lens. This is built into the camera. So they know all about the weight that the lens is pulling on this camera, yet they put that not only in a bad place, but I'll show you as well how badly it's engineered. So if we have a look at this, found this on a website. You can see here there's this plastic plate, this here. So this plastic plate here that's this plate here, and there's a hole in the plate, which is the hole that the tripod mount socket sits through. Now over here, I believe that is the plate. This metal plate attaches to the inside of this, and the screws that go through here, basically they don't attach the socket to the plastic casing. These screws attach this to it's basically fixing it to a plate. This is part of a plate that's under here, and that plate is then rigidly fixed to the front and back to form part of the cage. So this socket is actually, it's at one of the stronger points of the camera. There's a plate under here that is fixed to the front and the back. See on the, this is a Mark IV, mine's a Mark II, so I don't know how similar this is, but you can see from these pictures here. So this is the recess. So this is the recess here, the tripod mount. So the tripod mount screws into there. You can see the size of this plate. You see the fittings on this plate. It's a very thick piece of metal plating. It's all one piece. That attaches front and back to the cage of the camera. Contrast that with, so this is somebody taking apart the Nikon P900. So you can see here, so what he's doing, this is the tripod mount, like a recess here is part of, it's just got a flange plate on it. These 4 screws are the extent of that flange plate. So where we saw on the Canon, there's a plate that's half the size of this bottom. There's a plate that goes up inside the bottom of there that the recess is part of. This has no plate. Underneath this is all air. So this flanged recess is attached by these 4 screws to the plastic casing. Nothing else. There's nothing else around here, as you can see from this video. That's the flanged recess that the tripod mount screws into, and you can see that there's nothing behind it, there's nothing around it. That's the extent of it. So you see there, last screw, and there it is, and there it comes, and that's all it is. That is the entirety of the support for this camera on the tripod. That's it. It's not attached to anything else. It's just attached to the casing, the plastic casing. It's a terrible design flaw. Even though I've super glued that in, I've prodded and poked it quite a bit. It's quite firmly glued in, but It's not even flush. It's not even sat correctly. So I can't. And even if it was, a perfect mend, I'd never trust that ever again as a tripod mount for this camera. They would have been better off just leaving that off and just giving you nothing, making you buy another product to put it on a tripod. That would have been a better solution than this. It's baffling. So anyway, there are some solutions, or there's one main product solution, which is it's essentially a shoe fitting that attaches to the tripod, and then it has a ring mount that then holds the camera by the ring, and it doesn't attach to there. So it's basically just like a shoe that the camera sits on. 30 odd, 50 quid. So I'm not buying a product for that amount. So I spent an evening building my own rough solution, which is essentially I don't know, what do you call it, a shoe, a sledge, something. There's a couple of pieces of board, some rubber, some polystyrene shaped, a Velcro strap. The camera fits nice and snug in there to give it some extra security. And wrap it in the Velcro, and it's pretty nice. So all it is, a couple of pieces of board with a bolt super glued in there. So got a hole in one board. Although it's a couple of pieces of clip frames. So I cut a hole through one and then scored into this one just to sit the bolt into it, so that it's going to hold it nice and tight. Because what I didn't want to do was just sit the bolt inside this piece, because any movement that way, regardless of the super glue, the bolt's is going to fall out. So I found this bolt in a kit of random camera stuff. So it's the same bore as my shoe for the tripod. So that's in there. It's recessed into the second board, all glued together, nice and strong. This is from an old pair of gardening gloves that were unfortunately knackered. Just cut the palm off for this matting here. Gives it it just cushions it a little bit and gives it some grip. Then I've just cut out some pieces of polystyrene, just shaped them to take the lens. This is the end of the glove with the Velcro. Again, that's just all glued in there, and it's shaped nicely so that the camera sits perfectly. It's snug. It only sits on one way. It's either on or it isn't. Okay, it's a really awkward one to film, because normally I'd film using this camera, and I'm trying to film the tripod as well. So screwed the shoe onto my little sled, clip that onto the tripod. So it's sat there. The camera, and sit the camera on. and there we go. It just sits really nicely on it. And even without the Velcro, there's decent movement, even forward and backwards. It's nicely cushioned in there. It's just perfectly happy. Stick the Velcro on just to make it a bit more snug. Now we've got tilt movement, and it's just sat really nicely. Do that one, go back, pause. I've got all the movement I want on the tripod, just for a load of bits and pieces I found around the house and a bit of glue. So there you go.